David Brewster here with a new episode of Chordplay. This is part 2 of the Chords of White Lion, and this is technically the third Chordplay episode surrounding Vito Bratta and the music of White Lion. And the first one was over 5 years ago, the Chords of Vito Bratta. And then the second one is the first Chords of White Lion. This is the second Chords of White Lion. So there are 3 Chordplay episodes, 2 3-for-all episodes looking at some of Vito's licks. Definitely a legendary band, a legendary guitarist, and I've been a White Lion fan since I was an early teenager. You know, just starting to play guitar. Obsessed with Van Halen and Vai and Satriani and Malmsteen and players like that. And then I fell into Vito and White Lion's music. Also Reb Beach and Winger's music back then. And definitely a very important band. They formed in New York City in 1983. And they only released technically 4 albums in their original run with the original lineup. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in this episode too. So if you're a White Lion fan, buckle up. This episode's for you. So I have to admit, since I've started this channel, it really surprised me to see the outpour of requests for Vito Bratta. You know, you have to keep in mind, Vito left the band. You know, he actually hasn't worked with White Lion since 1991. That was 33 years ago. But people still hold Vito and White Lion's legacy on this, like, upper mantle or top shelf or whatever. There's a lot of respect. And I've seen hundreds of requests for Vito. And, you know, as I started making more videos, I had more requests, you know, to feature more. And it's really surprising. Like I said, he hasn't worked with this band in 33 years. It was the early 90s when the band kind of, you know, fizzed out. But there's still so much respect and remembrance, you know, for his legacy and his playing. Definitely Vito is a badass guitarist. And I do wish he would make a return in some form or fashion. It doesn't have to be White Lion. Just release like a solo album or something, or it could be all acoustic or whatever. But it's obvious, you know, a lot of people really miss Vito Bratta. As far as what you'll find in this episode, the first Chordplay episode I put together, the Chords of Vito Bratta, that was a lot of pride and big game. And then the Chords of White Lion was pride, big game, and main attraction, you know, for the most part. This episode is just going to basically target their first album, Fight to Survive. It was recorded in '84. They were, I think they were signed with Elektra, but Elektra didn't release the album. Eventually it was released in Japan in '85, and then it didn't really get like a full, you know, release until 1986. It didn't do anything. It just kind of fell off the map. And then after Pride exploded, that's when Fight to Survive kind of, you know, had a little second life or whatever. But I've talked to a lot of White Lion fans that have no clue about Fight to Survive. They've never really heard it, or they've only heard Broken Heart. And it's actually a really cool album. It's different. And when you compare Fight to Survive to Pride, you can hear Vito's playing differently. He's playing a lot darker and heavier on Fight to Survive. And some of those like Van Halenisms that you hear all over Pride, they don't really appear as much on Fight to Survive. And Vito's playing almost reminds me more of Randy Rhoads at times, where he's doing trills and these dark riffs and lots of power chord stuff and pinch harmonics and stuff like that. So he's noticeably playing a lot different. And it's definitely White Lion's heaviest and darkest album. So without further ado, here we go. With the opening, that's the song All Burn in Hell from Fight to Survive, and I'm using the MXR clone looper to kind of help me out, and it was something like this. Something like that. So it basically starts with this heartbeat like bass. That's what the MXR clone looper was doing in the beginning. That's just the bass playing F. You know, over and over like that. You can think Gene Simmons bass solo, I guess. guess. And as far as the guitar part over that F note, it actually starts with a C flat 6 to a C5, and you're kind of separating the notes. You know, like that. So play that flat 6 first, and then move that A flat back to G for that C5. Like that. And then you're going to do the exact same thing again, but end with this B flat now, and that's an implied C7. Like that. The next chord, it's an F5 to an F sus4 implied. Like that. And then that last chord right here, that's like part of an implied, D flat 5 to an implied D flat major 7, like that. And it's just a little 2-note, you know, implied chord. So that's all played over that heartbeat bass line, like this. Scrape. And then he's basically doing this kind of busy, you know, picked riff. So you're doing some double picking in there too, and it's basically playing around with that C, like C flat 6, C5, C sus4 to C5. Like that. And then change that C to a D flat now. Like that. And start that first riff again. And right there, you're going to do a pinch harmonic there on that C note. And then it starts chugging these power chords in F5 to a D flat 5. And you got that single note D flat C to that A flat. And then just loop that riff for that beginning of the verse. Seems like it goes to E flat like right after that. That's a cool song, and I really dig that really super dark intro too. It's really cool. Next up is the song Cherokee from the album Fight to Survive. Actually, everything in this lesson is from Fight to Survive. But Cherokee's really cool. It definitely has that kind of signature Vito rhythm, you know, guitar sound and style like this. You know, something like that. So it actually starts with a B power chord to an E power chord down there in open position. And after that lower E, then you hear him move to that higher E, like that. Like that. And then the next chord right here, he spells out, and that's a B over D sharp, like that. And then it's C sharp minor to a C sharp sus2, like that. And you're kind of pulling off that E note back to that D sharp, and then you kind of just stay on that D sharp, like that. Then an A power chord, 2 C sharp power chords, slide down to that B, and then it's a single G note to that E power chord, right? So that first part, that next riff after that that single G to that E power chord, then you start chugging the low E open, and you're really just playing part of an E sus4, like that, and change that E sus4 to that that A note to that B note. Now it's just E5, like that. And that last little tag, it's like an E, you know, E5 to that B over D sharp, C sharp 5 to an A or to a B, and then grab that G note right there, single, and then just end on E, like that. But cool riff. Next up's the bouncy chorus riff from the song Where Do We Run? And it's something like this. Something like that. So the chorus riff, you're basically starting on that C5, and he's doing this bouncy kind of move with the root notes pretty much on every chord. C5, and then like that. And he's really just kind of doing the scratchy kind of, and then like that. So it's basically on every chord. So C5, then it's basically a G over B, and do it again right there. Then an A5, and do it again right there. Do a G5, do it again. Then it's a D over F sharp. I love that little twist. And then it's F5, and then to C5, to G5. And then right there it goes right back in the verse, like that. Next up's Kid of 1,000 Faces, and Vito's playing these super heavy, like stacked power chords. Definitely doesn't sound like typical White Lion, but Kid of 1,000 Faces is like this. Something like that. So stack power chords, an F sharp over C sharp, and then you're just going to move down chromatically, you know, F sharp to F to E, and they're all stacked. Like that. You know, F sharp over C sharp, F over C, and then E over B, like that. And then do a similar move, but down here. So now C sharp over G sharp, you know, C over G, and then B over F sharp. And so you're doing bang, 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 pause, and then bang, 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 and then put it all together. And then you're going to start riffing on F sharp right there. So you're kind of opening up that root note to the low E open, and then grabbing F sharp. And then you got the C sharp C to B move. And the second time right there, you do a pinch harmonic on that F sharp. And then do that chord move again. And then he just starts moshing that F sharp power chord. Next up's the intro solo from the song In the City, and there actually aren't any chords until the very end of this, like when the verse begins at the end of the section. And it's really sparse. It's just guitar, bass, and drums playing this initial, you know, opening. And there's no keyboard or guitar, you know, playing chords behind Vito. It's just bass root notes kind of leading the charge, and Vito's playing this melody. And there is an implied chord progression though. I'm going to use the MXR clone looper to kind of help me, but it's something like this. And it's probably like covering up the chords behind me. It's kind of buried down there. But the melody he's playing, it's basically E minor, right? And he's doing... And that's over E minor, like that. The second phrase is going to end on this F sharp. And that's where the chord kind of moves to. It's just a bass playing that F sharp root note, but it's an implied F sharp major, right? You hear that same thing, but you're going to end on F. And there it actually moved to an F major. And then Vito starts doing a trill there. And that kind of legato slur down to that E note. Like that. Start it again. Like that. And the chord's actually going to go to D now. And you're playing that F sharp right there, like a D over F sharp. Like that. And then, so after that, and after that F sharp is held, then he does this kind of picked, like that. Think of like the Paul Gilbert, picking exercise from Intense, Intense Rock 1. That's kind of what he's doing right there. And it ended on that E note, and the chord changed to C right there. Right? And then this is really cool at the end. He's kind of finding this crafty way to get down to that F sharp. Super dark right there. And of course the chord went to F sharp right there. Right? And then you hear this, like G, and then this F sharp to the open E, and then an E minor chord finally. Like that. Really interesting song, and I like that kind of simple implied chord progression happening behind that lead, and the chord kind of changes, and then like the note and the melody changes. So definitely check that song out, it's really cool. Alright, last but not least is the song El Salvador. This is the intro part, and I guarantee you've never heard Vito play this way unless you've heard this song before. It has this very distinct flamenco, sound. And the intro starts with this kind of finger-picked, chord pattern, and then this really interesting part happens after this, where he plays like a nylon string lick, then an electric lick, nylon string lick, electric lick, and he's going back and forth with this kind of authentic, flamenco sound. But the very beginning he's doing... something like that. It's pretty simple, but like this. So it starts with E major like that, and you're doing this arpeggio. That kind of descending, like that. And then you're going to change to this, and that's an implied F add sharp 11. Hear that, which is the F sharp add 11, or the F add sharp 11 rather, but then he starts adding that C note, and that just changes it to a regular F major chord. So he's doing, and you hear him do a hammer on, pick through it, finger pick through it, and then a pull off like that, and then go back to that E major chord. You're going to actually end on that F add sharp 11. It's going to end on that B, which is your sharp 11 right there. So it's kind of short and sweet, and right after that he starts doing this crazy flamenco. He starts doing this crazy like flamenco strumming, and then it goes into that nylon string electric guitar back and forth thing. Really interesting song, and like I said, you probably never heard Vito play that way before, because I don't really remember him ever, pulling out like flamenco. When the Children Cry had nylon string guitar, but that was almost more like a classical kind of part. This is distinctly flamenco. All right, that's going to wrap this episode of Chordplay with this third look at the chords of White Lion, technically, and definitely Vito's, sorely missed. Like I mentioned earlier, I've talked to so many, students and friends and people online and complete strangers about this band, Vito Bratta, the guitarist. And the fact that he just like disappeared. He came out of nowhere, blew everybody's minds, and then he just vanished. It was like a magic trick or something, like poof, he's gone. And I think that's part of it, is, they didn't retire, he didn't die, he just disappeared. And people know he's still out there. It's not like Elvis or Jim Morrison or something. It's like, no, Vito's still alive. He's hanging out somewhere, probably at a deli or something in New York. But, people just are scratching their head. It's like, where did he go? And that's kind of rare. Tragedies in rock and roll are common, but disappearing acts like that, don't usually happen. I mean, you do have people that retire and they kind of, fade from the limelight or whatever. But with Vito, it really was like 1 minute he was there, he was on covers of guitar magazines and on MTV. Poof, the next minute he just disappeared. And it's interesting that so many people, myself included, have just been sorely, missing him and wondering, like, I wonder what he's doing. Or I wonder if he's recording anything, or if he's going to record anything. And those mysteries definitely have kind of fueled, his reputation and his legacy. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.